Welcome, everybody, to the BNI Talks webinar. My name is Steve Tenuza, your host, and today I've got David Kaufman of the BNI DVR, Delaware Valley region, and he is been in BNI for a long time, a member since 2001, so he beat me by a year, so you know he's been around a while. And he has one of the most impressive BNI resumes I've ever seen, right? He's launched 52 chapters, sponsored 242 members, the highest in BNI recorded history. Nobody beats him. He's on top. He's also reported $6.5 million in thank you for closed business. So he's really does the BNI Givers Gain thing as well as anybody out there. He's the vice chairman of the BNI Foundation. So we'll have to have you back for a foundation one for sure.
Sure.
And the BNI DVR region is part of 5 regions in Philadelphia, Reading, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and then Southern New Jersey and Delaware. He has 128 chapters in his regions, and that's over 2,500 members. So it's one of the largest regions that we've got.
Yep.
And he is also the author of a book called Your Message, which I got to see a preview way back in the day when we were at a conference together. So, David, welcome to the BNI Talks webinar, and thanks for presenting this, because this is our highest member. Our highest BNI registered webinar that we've had. We've done lots of marketing ones that have gotten a ton of registrations, but this one is equally high, and it's really all about doubling the membership and tripling referrals. So why don't you take it from here?
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate that. And I'll get you a copy of that book. I'll mail you one.
Please do. Autograph.
Okay. So we're going to start this off with a quick, first of all, make sure everyone has something to write with, pen, paper, because we will be taking some notes, and you're actually going to have to do some work.
Yay, I love a workshop.
Yep. So first of all, I want you to think about, everyone should have a BNI goal. So first of all, what is your goal, right? Is it a set amount of clients? Is it a set amount of referrals? Is it a dollar amount, right? Because everything we're going to do for the rest of this presentation wraps around what your goal is, because people's goals are different, and you'll learn more about that as I go forward, because some of your goals may mean you need transactional referrals, people writing you checks, and some of your goals may be relationship referrals, meaning you want to talk to people that are just going to keep giving you new clients. So first, understand what your goal is. Now, what is the hardest thing to do in BNI? I'll give you a hint. So on the slide, right? People often say to me that the hardest thing in BNI is to bring visitors to your chapter. Bringing visitors to your chapter is just getting over the word no, right? Because you're going to invite a bunch of people, and most of them are going to say no. It's okay. They're probably not the right people for your chapter anyway. However, writing a weekly presentation that puts money in your pocket, puts clients and referrals in your basket every single week, is by far the hardest thing there is to do in BNI. I have heard thousands and thousands of weekly presentations and featured presentations, and I'm often shocked that people don't actually ask for what they need. And that's what the weekly presentation is. So let's dive into it a little bit. So first of all, take your pad out, your paper, your tablet, whatever you're going to write with, and I want you to make a T just like this, right? So make this T, and this is going to be the basis of all the work we're going to do today. Now, in the upper left-hand section, I want you to write the word transactional. In the upper right-hand side, I want your word relationship. Now, the next part to understand about this is you have proactive and reactive referrals, specifically in the transactional piece. So I'll give you an idea. A plumber. So a plumber could do a weekly ask where they're going to say, a great referral for me is someone that you know that's frantically calling because their basement's filled with water because their hot water heater has burst, right? That's a reactive referral. And you're not going to get a ton of those, because in this case, by the time that water heater's burst, they're probably not calling the plumber right away. They're probably calling the insurance company. So how do you take that reactive ask and make it a proactive ask? So what if the plumber said, please go tell all your friends, family, relatives, go look at the date on your hot water heater. If it is over 10 years old, you're on borrowed time. I'd be happy to come give you a free estimate. So it's the same ask. It's about a hot water heater and replacing a hot water heater, but you could talk about it from a proactive side, which will generate referrals, or a reactive side, right? So that's just kind of one example. So write that down. Now you have your graph. So the next thing you want to think about is, who are your transactional clients, right? You want to list your potential clients. Now, I don't want, so I hear this all the time when you have people in the skincare industry, and I go to these meetings and I hear these commercials. Anybody with skin is a great referral for me. No, they're not. I got skin, and I can tell you, I am your worst referral. Don't use creams and lotions. And by the way, I don't need shampoo, right? I don't need a lot. So me and a bar of soap is all I need. So you want to really describe that client. I'm looking for a single mother with 3 kids that doesn't have time to go to the store and get their skincare products, right? So you want to describe your clients, be specific. You've heard Dr. Miser say specific is terrific. Here's where you want to be specific. So start listing out your clients. Now, you have 3 kind of pieces in this. Who are the clients that you don't have that you'd like to have? Who are the types of clients that you have and you want more of? And who are the clients that bring you the highest dollar value, the most money, right? So think about that as you're listing these out. So while I'm talking, you start writing. Now, on the other side of this, we're going to talk about the relationship side. So this list I just pulled up is really for someone who's in marketing, someone who's, it could be a web designer, could be a graphic designer, anyone who's in that space. Now, when you think about relationships, this list of people. So why is a business attorney good for someone who's in the marketing category? Well, business attorneys are going to know when someone's starting up a new company, just like a CPA. They're one of the first people that we go to. So that business attorney is a great relationship person for someone in marketing, because someone who's just starting probably has no marketing, right? They're going to need it. So that's a good relationship. A CPA is going to know when a company is getting started. Same with a bookkeeper. And web design, which is one of the first things you have to do when you're starting a company. If you don't have a website, I hear this all the time, are you really a business? Are you, people are looking to see that you're up on the website, and that makes them feel comfortable, even though that anybody can have a website, but it makes people feel comfortable. So again, a sign company, a printer is going to be printing business cards. Someone making promotional products is going to be giving those giveaways. Maybe they're getting t-shirts or hats. They're going to need office equipment, right? So all these people are going to be good relationship referrals for someone in marketing. Now think about your business and start listing what companies, what categories would be really good to share their clients with you, and start writing them down. All right. Now, you are not going to get this finished in this session that we're doing today. This is long-term work, long-term homework. But if you want to be successful in your business, you've got to put the effort into it, right? BNI is this system. It's this shiny toolbox that we hand you. I can't make you open that toolbox and take a tool out. This is a really great tool, but you're going to have to invest some of your time in doing it. So this is a start today. So don't stress if you don't have it all. You got to think this out. Now, when I'm teaching new members or even existing members on their weekly presentations, what do? So the next piece is, let's talk a little bit about the ABCs of a good weekly presentation. So the first one is the A. You're going to pick a client off that list. Maybe it's a transactional referral this week. Maybe it's a relationship referral this week. But as you're building out a good commercial or a weekly presentation, or your ask, whatever you call it in your region, go to this list that you've created or started to create and pick someone. Now, the next piece of the puzzle is, how will I know? What will I hear? What will I see to let me know I found the right person? Chances are it's going to be wrapped around a complaint, right? Most people complain all the time. And most of the time, a complaint is an ask for help. There are a few exceptions, like my mother. She complains all the time, and no matter what I say, no, I'm okay, then stop telling me you need help. But for the most part, people, especially in business, when they're complaining about something, they're looking for a solution. And BNI is that solution, right? We have the people that can help. So what will I hear? What will I see to let me know? Now, the piece I rarely hear on a weekly ask or weekly presentation is, what do I need to say? What do I need to do? What do I need to tell this person? So they say, oh my God, I want to meet Steve. He's the answer to my problem.
Typically.
Yes. So think about the ABCs. Now what we want to do is you write a presentation. So you're going to go to your list, and if you do this and you write out 20 or 30 weekly presentations, there's your guides, your chapter meetings. So it might be a campaign. So when I was a travel agent at BNI, I was big on destination weddings. So starting back in Thanksgiving, I would start a campaign talking about weddings. I might do one here where I'm saying, look for that person pointing to the ring. That's a commercial. The next commercial will be, who do you see on Facebook talking about, that picture of getting the ring? That would be the next week. The next week might be, do you hear a father complaining about having to pay for a wedding? Right? So you can take the same type of client and do a whole series of asks about that particular client, right? So start writing this out. Now, once you have this, write it down. Make a list. This is just one way of doing it. This is someone who just wrote out a list. This is for a jeweler that I work with. And he just wrote out a whole list of commercials. Now, it makes it easy. When you have a sub, guess what you can do? Copy and paste in an email, and goes right to your sub. It's also your guide to your weekly presentations. Now, I'm big on tracking. I love data. So when I tell members I'm working with, when you do this type of presentation and you do a weekly presentation, write the date down next to it that you did it, right? Did it bring you referrals? How many referrals? And after a couple of weeks, if you didn't get anything from that weekly presentation, something's wrong. They didn't understand your ask, or you don't have the right people. You're talking to the wrong people. They're not in your chapter. So you make a list like this. And what else is this great for? We're going to talk about that. But take the time and start this list. Go to your T, pick your clients, and you want to have a good combination of both transactional referral asks and the relationship referral asks. You need both to be really successful in BNI. So start that, and this is your roadmap. Go ahead, Steve.
What I love about this is that if you go to any chapter meeting on any given day, no matter where you are in the world, and you watch the people presenting, you know that there's a good percentage of them that have no idea what they're going to talk about until they're the next person, and they're still in their head figuring out desperately what they're going to say. And then they get up and they try to do it. And it's always a missed opportunity. They always forget to ask for a referral, or they go too long and the message is lost. Writing this down does not take that long, and it's so well worth it. Block off an hour and you can have 20 of these things.
Yep. And you can tweak them, you can add to them, especially if you put it in a Word document. It's easy to update as times change. And I think it's just the best tool to have. Okay, now you're in your chapter, you completed your member success training, you've done your launching pad. Now what? Now you have to do your featured presentation. I sat through some featured presentations this week that didn't once tell me what a good referral was. Mm-hmm. I saw pictures of what they did. I saw explanations of how Social Security works, all kinds of stuff. But these were presenters that got up there and missed the opportunity because they never said a good referral for me is. Well, if you do this exercise, you will never be in that situation. So if you take that first sheet that we created and you do a little more work, this is for a painter I worked with. So if you see here, he writes at the top, a good referral for me is, with some information about himself, and he lists all the pieces, right? And he puts a line next to it. I'm a huge fan of this format. You hand this out to your chapter. If you're online, you can email it to the members. If you're in face-to-face, you can print it out. And you say to everyone, as I'm describing these great referrals for me, if you think of somebody, write their name down. They are great referrals for me next week and the week after when you talk to them. Now you see at the bottom of this, he has introductions. These are those relationship referrals. So in the beginning of his 10-minute presentation, he's talking about transactional referrals. And in the second half of his presentation, he's talking about relationship referrals. So this is a painter who has completed this. Here's one for a travel agent friend of mine. Similar format, just a little differently. He put a little bit more wording into this. And then on the lower half of this, again, he had his information about who he wanted to meet. You have to understand that those are so important to have the transactional and the relationship. Really, really important. All right, so now you did your featured presentation and there's a whole lot of people that had questions for you. And there's no time at the meeting to ask questions. Now what? One-to-ones, the hidden secret of BNI. All right. Now, how do you prepare for a one-to-one? Well, you make sure your Connect profile is filled out. You fill out your gains exchange, your tops, and all that information. What's the best thing to bring with you? A roadmap of your master referral sheet that you just created. Now you can hand it to that person and they can ask you questions about it. So you want to make sure you bring that sheet with you of the master referrals. You want to bring your gains exchange. You want to cover each referral on that master referral sheet, both transactional and relationship. You want to review who's missing from your contact sphere and talk about how to invite them. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in a minute. And what's the most important thing? Record your one-to-ones in BNI Connect. Make sure you put notes in there. Make sure you have a clear understanding of what you talked about, and maybe even put a note as to when you want to follow up with that person. I am amazed at how many BNI members don't track their one-to-ones. And if you're a new member and you come into a chapter and you do all your one-to-ones, it's a great list if you go into that report and Connect to go back and say, oh my God, it's been 8 months since I did a one-to-one with this person. And maybe you notice you're not getting as many referrals as you used to. That's a great reason to go back and do a second one-to-one. You can never learn everything about a person in a single one-to-one. You've got to do follow-ups, right? Now, what's really important is to teach me what I need. What can I ask my clients to make them want to meet you? These are questions to be talked about at your one-to-ones. What can I tell them about you so they're excited to want to meet you? Really, really important stuff. Now, you're through your one-to-one, but not yet. What did you forget to talk about in your one-to-one? Inviting to your chapter. Really important part of every one-to-one. You don't know who they know until you ask them, right? So now, what if you go back and you take that list with you? Now in this list, I printed it out, but I highlighted all the categories that were not in my chapter. I can still do a commercial about meeting a CPA, a weekly presentation, a web designer, a printer, but I need to get them into my chapter because to really build those relationships, I want to get those people in my chapter so they're in my contact spheres. So now you invite these people. Now, how simple is it to invite someone? People make it so complicated. How did I sponsor so many members? I've done it the same way all this time. Years ago, let me see if I can show this or not show this. There was a person who was inviting me to BNI for 3 years, and I never came. And then one day I was looking for insurance. Some of you may not know what I'm talking about, but I went to the yellow pages because that's the way you found businesses back then. And I started making phone calls and I called people. And I found someone who saved me $2,800 and got me more coverage. Now I was an electrician. I had 11 employees. Yes, we broke things. Yes, we drilled in the pipes, but I always just fixed it and paid with it. I never wanted my clients to deal with the insurance. That to me was not good customer service. So I took care of it, right? So why were my rates going up? Couldn't tell me. So after I wrote this guy a check, he had the old maroon BNI card holder on his desk, and he slides it across to me. And this was a forming chapter. They had 13 people in there. Now, things were a little different. He got his card holder before the chapter launched back then. And he said, look through this. Is there anybody you want to meet? And I said, yes, I want to meet the real estate agent and the general contractor. He said to me, great, come to the diner Friday morning, 7 a.m. I'll introduce you to those people. And I said, I can't, I'm busy. I got to get my crew on the road. And he said to me, okay, I need a 200 amp service. Would you give me an estimate? I said, sure. Now back then it was about $2,000, $1,800, a lot of money back then. He gets out a Post-it, writes a note. He says, here's my address. And he folds it up and he hands it to me. And as I'm walking out the door, I open it up. And I turn and I look at him. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He goes, what? I said, it says the Country Squire Diner on Westchester Pike. That's not your house. And he says, so when I asked you to come to a networking meeting, you told me you were too busy and you couldn't change your schedule. But when I put dollar signs next to it, you immediately said you could do it without even talking to anybody. He said, you put BNI in your book as a client meeting. that turns into dollars. And he said, I'll see you Friday morning at 6:30. And I was there and I joined. Right?
Nice.
So how do you invite people? You invite to meet the other people in the room. Don't sell BNI. You don't have to. Invite for the people in the room. Come meet the CPA. He's going to be a great referral partner for you, and they will come. All right? 30 minutes, Steve? Is that what we're looking, give or take, about?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk briefly, because it wouldn't be me if I wasn't talking about the foundation. Right. So the foundation to me is a really important part of all our BNI chapters. A lot of people don't understand what it is. I'm going to do a quick 2-minute overview. There are 3 pillars to the foundation. The Meisner Endowment, that's our long-term bank account for the future. That money comes in, and when we hit $1 million, it'll start spitting out interest that I can fund grants with forever, because we'll never touch the principal. Then we have our Givers Gains grants. That's the money coming in, the money going out. That's our monthly donors. That's the people that donate before the conferences. And that's how we fund our Givers Gains grants. If you have someone in your chapter that's involved with children, education, anything in that realm, could be your nonprofit in your group or just someone you know, twice a year we open it up for Givers Gains grants. Once in the spring, once in the fall. It'll be in SuccessNet, it'll be in the wire. We want you to go ahead and put that application in. We want to give back to the local community where our members are. The last is Business Voices teams. That's you, our members, getting involved in the local community, solving the problem of the groups in your area. Could be a teacher who needs books. Could be a homeless shelter that needs use computers and tablets so that the kids can keep up. My chapter has donated socks and underwear because locally we have over 300 elementary schools in the homeless shelters, and they can only have new underwear and socks. And if they're going to go to school, they have to look good, hygiene products, whatever it is. Don't assume you know, go ask. We also have Business Voices Future Leaders, which is your chapter in October, going into schools, after school programs. I'm going to go to the Boys and Girls Club of New Jersey and giving career counseling to the kids. You'll see more information about that. That's going to be this October the 15th, but we have it every year. And I am right about my piece here, and I'm going to turn it over for questions.
All right. If you have any questions, please put them right in the Q&A as we're going through this. But David, one of the things that I would love to have you back on, since you talked about the foundation, is to do some sort of a challenge, maybe for the fall. So maybe we'll have you on in the summer to talk about what we can do for the BNI Foundation, because I think what a lot of people don't get when we talk about this, it is really local. You can choose a local place right outside your door, like a Boys and Girls Club or something like that, or a local school that really needs help. And I think that we can make a huge impact if we have lots of chapters involved in doing this.
And we also have a program where if your chapter, your region is collecting money, and technically chapters are not supposed to give to a particular charity unless you have one in your chapter, because everyone gets angry because they all have their favorite charity. If you donate the money to the BNI Foundation, we will reach back out to you, and we want to push that money back into your region, right? So if there's anything with children education and you donate 1,000 or more, we want to push that money through a Givers Gain grant back to your local region. And so I know, like in Vicky from Vermont, she does a big fundraising every year, and every year she has all her members vote on which charity it should go to, and then we do. So we just gave to the Bradford Elementary School. They had the same art books for 35 years, and she had, her budget was $10 per kid for art supplies for the year. They cut it down to $3. So they raised money, we gave it to the school. She was thrilled. New art books, plenty of art supplies. So it's important for us in the foundation to know that if money is raised in an area, it goes back to the area where it was raised. And we ask for your guidance when we do that. So absolutely, Steve, I'd love to come back.
Fantastic. Rena's asking, could you please show the slide that was right before the invite to your chapter slide? Let me just back up a little bit. Let's see. That one.
This one?
Yeah. All right, there it is, Rena. To find out more about the BNI Foundation, well, I would start with the BNI Foundation website.
Yep. Yes, you can go to bnifoundation.org. You can also send your request to info@bnifoundation.org, or just reach out to me at davidk bnifoundation.org, whichever is easier for you. But there's a ton of information on our website.
And
Or our Facebook page. You can also like or follow BNI Foundation Facebook page.
Right. And someone's asking about applying for grants. So there's a time that they open for grants, right?
Right. We open it up in the spring and the fall, usually right before the U.S. conference, the month before the U.S. conference, and a month before the international one, so that we can give out the awards before the conferences, and then we can highlight what we've done.
Great.
And it's right from bnifoundation.org, Givers Gains Grants. You click on a button and the application's right there online.
Right. Okay. Let's see. And then Susan's asking, could you go back to the slide about the travel agent?
Sorry, there's no easier way to do this.
Yeah, that's all right.
This one.
Yeah, that is that one. So David, if people are asking for the PowerPoint to use because there's so much information on here, is that something that we can share?
Yeah, I actually have this in a PDF format.
Great.
That is, do you send any follow-up email to everyone, or?
I do, or you can have it handy right now. You can put it right into the chat. If you don't, no worries. We can always email it out.
I would have to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay.
That's fine. We'll just email it out.
Okay.
All right, let's see. How many times is too many times in a row to ask for the same referral? For example, I need a meeting with John Smith to discuss becoming his repair facility on his vehicles. When do you suggest to come back?
So that's a great question. And the answer to that is, how are you asking? So if you're asking, I'm assuming he has a repair shop,
Yeah.
right? So you could do a bunch of commercials about different repair shops you want to get into and say specifically, I'm looking for this one and this person. And I wouldn't do it, I would do it, do a couple weeks in a row and then come back to it. But if you've done it 2 weeks in a row and you don't get that referral, doing it more than that, unless you have new people in the room, is missed opportunity, right? So if you have visitors in the room, you might want to go back to that again. But
Right.
if you have a chapter of 20 and you have good attendance and you do that ask 2 weeks in a row, I would move on to something else and then maybe come back to it later when you have a visitor in the room, where you could have new ears and new context to explore.
Yeah, I know that in a case like Bobby's question here is that a lot of times some members will say, this month, my topic is this. And they're going to do the whole month. They're going to be talking about the same particular referral, but from, as you mentioned, David, from different angles, they're going to talk about it, different opportunities to do that. So I think that's the best way to get really creative about it. And yes, best way to do it is to write everything down rather than trying to wing it right before it's your turn to speak. So that's a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, and it's a funny thing. If you've been in BNI for a while, you know the people that are winging it. And then what's the problem with that? It's like not following up on a referral.
Right.
I mean, if you're winging it or you don't follow up with a referral within 24 hours, I'm going to assume that's how you run your business and that's how you're going to treat your clients. So
And the
it's
other
really
thing is,
important.
because we're conditioned to listen for people who are prepared, whether you realize that or not, if you hear someone and they're struggling out of the first few sentences and don't really know which direction they're going, or they're making a joke, or they're going to say, I'm going to piggyback off what Joe said because I wasn't paying attention, you stop paying attention. And so that drags down the referrals as well. Yeah,
and there's a couple things, like you want to stay away from the A words, anyone, anybody, any business. Let's try something right now in the chat box, right? So if I do a weekly presentation and I say a good referral for me this week is a mid-sized law firm. Okay, now in the chat box, how many employees does a mid-sized law firm have to you? Right in the chat right now. Right, so I've got everything here from 6 to 250 in between. So you need to be specific. I'm looking for a mid-sized law firm that has between 10 and 15 employees, or whatever it means to you, right? So being specific about those asks is really important. So don't say any business, anybody, stay away from those, be specific when you're talking about that.
Right.
No, the Chiefs are not winning, I'm sorry.
Okay, another question. Tom asks, I'm a PNC insurance member. I have a tough time determining who is my best customer other than a home buyer. It's everyone. How do I narrow that down? This is a B2C kind of concern.
So, my suggestion would be to sit down and make a list of what you're looking for, right? So you might have a commercial about a family who has teenagers, right? So yes, you're looking to combine the house and the cars, right? So you might say one week, a great referral for me this week is one of your neighbors who's complaining about the fact that their kids now starting to take driver's license and they're going to have to put them on the policy. You're looking for a homeowner. You want the bigger the policy, the more commission you make. A great referral for me is someone you know who has a ton of cars in their driveway, or who has a jet ski, a boat, and 3 cars, right? So you're describing those different types of people, even though it's all someone who owns a house, right? It's all a family, but you're describing different scenarios that you're going to make people in the chapter think differently. So you might say to someone, I'm looking for a family that has teenagers about to start driving. That may resonate with 3 or 4 people in the chapter, but it might not resonate with others, right? So if my kids are grown out of the house, I'm not in that world anymore. Now, maybe you say a great referral for me is someone who you know who has a boat and a jet ski in their driveway and a couple cars. Now I'm thinking about a different type of person. And if you really put some time and effort into this, you can describe your clients. Look at your book of business and look at what you're insuring, and then describe those different types of people that you're insuring. And that way you keep everyone's interest and you get the best types of clients that you're looking for. Hope that answers that.
Yeah. And Brian is asking a similar question. He says, I have a landscaping business. What's a great client for me?
So that's an interesting thought, because what if you have someone whose grass is always really high and always has stuff on the ground, right? That's someone who doesn't have time to take care of their house most of the time. So you can do a weekly presentation where you say, do you have a neighbor, do you have a relative that just never seems to have enough time to take care of their property? They always say, oh, I got to clean up the yard, and they never quite get to it, right? That's a perfect opportunity for me to say, you've talked about this. I know someone who can help. You also might want to talk to someone who, if you say to someone, look for someone who has their lawn care really well kept, right? Because maybe you would like to go out to that person because you know they're hiring someone, and you can, give them another estimate. So think about what you're doing. Do you know someone who is complaining that their lawn, and I don't know what kind of landscape you are, right? Whose lawn, they always has lots of brown patches, and they're talking about they can't fix it. Do you hear someone, if you do hardscaping, do you know people who are complaining about their wood decks are always rotting and they take repair? Well, I know someone who can put a paver in. Or you might hear someone complaining about that their pavers are shifting all the time when you're at someone's house and you see gaps in the pavers. So again, it starts with who is the kind of client you want as a landscaper. Are you looking for the weekly lawn mowing, or are you looking for the hardscaping, right? If it's the hardscaping, I want you to think about when you walk up to someone's house, look down at their sidewalks. If the piece from the driveway to the house is cracked and shifting, let them know that I can put pavers in there. Pavers will never get cracks, right? So think about what kind of client you want, which goes back to the original T exercise. And you have to really list out in depth what are the types of clients you want. And even as a landscaper, you do all kinds of things for your clients. It's identifying which piece brings you the most money, which piece are the types of businesses you want, and then you write those weekly presentations about that.
Great. All right, Bruce is asking for you to back up just one slide for him. Oh, that one. Yeah, that was a good one as well. Okay, so we have a couple of people asking about, and we're not going to spend the rest of this one doing for David to tell you exactly who you should be asking for, because really you should know who you're asking for. But this one is interesting to me. What about people in businesses that might have like uncomfortable topics to bring up, life insurance, funeral director, that kind of stuff?
Okay, yeah, but again, people talk. Now, when you're talking about death benefits, you oftentimes need to partner and have more relationship referrals, right? Because when a financial advisor is talking about retirement, it's not a hard conversation to say, have you thought about the next step, right? Have you thought about pre-planning, right? Because we all think about it. I got news for you. I'm already done. My kids aren't going to have to worry about it. And so for funeral benefits, it's a conversation of, think about your future, right? We know something's going to happen, right? Death and taxes, not going to get away from it.
Mm.
So then the conversation switches to, instead of asking for someone, I want you to talk about taking the burden off of people, right? So if you prepay your funeral, your expenses, you're taking the burden off of your children. So you can talk about it that way. Life insurance, again, it's all how you talk about it. You don't want to sell to your members. You want to create situations that they think. So what are scenarios where life insurance really helps, right? Tell stories. You know, I just helped out a client of mine who, unfortunately, the husband died prematurely. The wife wasn't working. And because of the life insurance he took out, she will be able to pay her mortgage. She'll be able to pay her car payment. She'll be able to get the kids in school because he thought ahead and planned through life insurance. So when you're talking about uncomfortable topics, you're doing more storytelling than asking for an introduction. Let them know that here's a scenario, here's what I did for one of my clients. If you know someone who might be in that scenario, if you know someone who's married with 3 kids, they really want to make sure that their family's protected, right? So it's just a different kind of ask when you're doing it. But it's not uncomfortable if you tell a story, because you're not going up to me and saying, hey, David, what happens when you're dead, right? You're not going to say that. It's not comfortable. I'm not going to go
Right,
up to my
right.
friend and say, I know you're going to die, but are you ready? Right? You're not going to have those conversations.
Right.
So I think it's best to do this through storytelling.
Yeah, I think that's a smart way to do it, and kind of inspiring way as well. For people to say, wow, you know, it's more than what you think. And sometimes we have a almost like a stereotypical vision of what someone does, and it's all kind of, you know, sad, depressing work, but they, you know, also, you know, create policies for brand new babies and the future and all that stuff. So lots of different ways to look at that. The person who asked for pet sitting advice, if you're a pet sitter, come on now, animals are the easiest thing to ask for. And people
So
always need pet sitting.
yeah, but pet sitting, it's just like any other category, right? You're going to solve someone's problem,
Yeah,
right? It's all in the ask. Do you know someone who's talking about going on vacation, but they say, I can never do it because I have animals,
yeah,
or those types of scenarios? Or I would love to get a dog, but I got to go work. I can't walk it. I can't take care of it.
yeah.
Well, I know someone who can solve those problems for you. So it's the same thing we're talking about, which is listing the clients you want and build out those stories about how you can help that person, right? BNI members solve problems. They solve problems either on the B2C or the B2B,
Yeah,
right? We're all solving problems.
absolutely. All right. I think that is gonna do. Oh, wait, hold on. Nope. New questions are popping in. See, just when I think we were gonna wrap up. Let's see. I am a minister who founded a spiritual community, which is a nonprofit. Oh, definitely talking about nonprofits,
Yep.
because we've got, you know, great opportunities for people who are in nonprofits, and they do quite well in BNI.
Right. So nonprofits, it's a different message, right? So it depends what type of nonprofit you are. So the biggest mistake I see nonprofits doing is standing up there and just money, 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 right? It's not the thing. So first of all, for a nonprofit, if you go on I'm going to embarrass myself because I helped write it and I don't know the name of it. There is a 10 or 15-minute class on Business Builder platform talking about how to have success as a nonprofit. So if you haven't taken that, just go into Business Builder and Google, not Google, but search nonprofit and it'll come up, right? So nonprofits, first of all, you have to be in a spot where you're participating, right? You want to make sure that you're giving referrals. Now, as a nonprofit, you can get a lot out of BNI. How many bookkeepers and CPAs do you think will give you a discount on your books? How many people that are doing shirts and promotional products will either donate or give you a discount? So you can cut your overhead by building those relationships and asking for that. Now, again, you have to build out what you're asking for. If you're having a golf outing and you need volunteers, you need sponsors, don't look to the members. You want to ask them, who do they know in business that has talked about being a sponsor or talks about wanting to give back to the community? And it's the same thing. It takes the time to figure it out, but you want to let the members know what problems you're having and ask them to find people to help you solve those problems. And you will be amazed at how that starts out. And all of a sudden they start volunteering. And then all of a sudden you're going to get the members of the chapter stepping up and helping you. But I know for the nonprofit in my chapter, she gets she got a volunteer or photographer, went out and took the pictures at the golf outing and her events. It's an easy referral if you're struggling this week, right? So I was on a chapter that has a food bank the other day, and she said, any food donation of $25 or more is a referral. I have seen nonprofits ask for you to get your Kohl's cash, right? And go to Kohl's or whatever those stores are that give that, and use that to buy the clothing, the underwear, whatever you need. It doesn't cost you anything. And how many of us actually go back and use that Kohl's cash? I went there, I bought everything I need, and now they're trying to get me back in next week. And you'll find people have that all over the place. So that's a great kind of thing to think about, is asking the members to solve the problems that you have, and it will all fall into place.
Fantastic. Wow, that was great. This 45 minutes went by fast. Wow, thanks so much, David, for being on today. This was really great information. I know our members are writing in the chat how much they loved it, which is fantastic. And what a perfect way to wrap up our International Networking Week.
Yes, yes.
Having you on today. So any final words for our members?
No, I think I'm going to stop sharing. Should I see if I can pull up that document real quick?
Sure.
Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to stop sharing. So I think the most important thing I can say about all this is you have to just start it, work on it. You don't have to complete it. It's going to change over and over again. It's not going to be the same. Your company may evolve, which means you have to go back and look at this again. But I will tell you that you have to do the work, right? So you really have to get in there and start doing the work, figure out what you need, who you need to be introduced to, take it to your one-on-ones and make sure you're asking to build your contact spheres, and just understand that it's going to evolve and it's going to change, and that's okay. And that's okay. And it's also okay to say to yourself that that I did something that didn't work and I got to fix it. And that's okay too.
Yeah, totally agree. And you know, when we talked about doubling your network and tripling your referrals, that is something that I actually got to experience in a BNI chapter when I became a member in 2002, and I was in a very small chapter that wasn't doing very much, and we had only done about $300,000 in business for the year, which is not very good. And then sure enough, over time, we grew to twice the size, and we got actually at one point got up to 58 members at our most. And the revenue was, you know, $2 to $3 million every year. And then it went up from there. So yeah, the takeaway that you gave me today, David, was building out your contact sphere.
Yep.
And talking about just bringing in one person, right? And then teaching people all about bringing in the right people for the chapter who are going to make the network strong and the referrals go up.
Yeah, and it really is. It's, you know, how do you eat the elephant?
Yeah.
Right. It's one piece. Invite one person, build your contact sphere by one, and then keep going. It's not as difficult as people think it is, but it does take time, and it does take the I'm okay with hearing the word no, because you're going to hear the no. You will. All right. Let me see how I can put this in the chat bar.
Victoria's asking me to send out the link to the recording in the follow-up email. Yes, I will. Actually, every email that I sent at the bottom is a link to that BNI Team USA YouTube channel. So you can just click on that and it'll show up. I'll post this video before 5 p.m. Eastern time today.
You know, Steve, so you're going to email the link to everybody?
I will, yeah, in next week's reminder, I'll put it in there. How about that?
Okay. I'm trying to get this to load. All right, any last minute questions?
Actually, Q&A. It's got some more stuff in it. Let's see. Peter says we need a follow-up with David. Yes, we do. Don't worry, I will pester him. But he seems willing enough, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I find that people seem afraid to use the tools for an effective one-to-one. I come prepared to actually want to follow the format, but they seem to want to make it personal and don't allow a format. So it's kind of more of a social
mhm.
than a business meeting.
And that's a problem. And what you really need to do is take control over it, right? Hey, let me go first,
Right.
and you do your presentation. And then if they want to talk personal stuff, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. I think that's the best way to do it. And I think when you're taking it seriously, and that person, by the way, should not stop doing what they're doing. If you're emailing your gains exchange in advance and doing all those things, it's going to feel more like you're expecting to have a business meeting and not just catching up on the Super Bowl or anything that's happening with a particular
I
team.
just put it in the chat. I hope it works because I've never done that before.
Okay, did it upload for you? Let me see. See if I see it. Usually takes a minute after you get. Oh, I see it. Yep. It is in the chat right now, and that is the PDF of this talk. So you can download that from there. And anyone else who needs it can reach out to me, Steve Januzzo at BNI.com. If you can't see it, if you're on your phone or if you're driving around. All right. Thanks so much for being on, everybody. This was a really great one. And as I mentioned, we'll have this uploaded later today. Give yourselves a CEU for being on today. And Dave, thanks a lot. We'll see you soon, I'm sure.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, take care, everybody.